dream is big enough. God brought your DNA here so that what's in you can get into what you came to. Hear me. And there's a Jacob that's still alive in this homeland that was promised by God that there would be a beloved son that would carry the legacy, move in the mandate, and see a latter outpouring of the glory of God. There's a generation that has lived, believed, hoped, longed, desired, travailed, wept, grieved, cried, because they look at what the nation looks like now, and it contradicts the dream God gave in the Reformation. And they've watched as ideologies from the East have vowed to take dominion, so that they don't even swear allegiance to the crown. Their allegiance is to Allah. They own half the city. They intend to take dominion. There is no God like our God. There is no God. Can I take a few more minutes? There is no God like our God. You're not here by accident. You're here because whether you realize it or not, God gave you a dream. And while there are those that say you don't belong, there is one that says, I will make room for you. What 3 generations were not given permission to do because they would have been tainted and would have been swallowed up in the culture, I'm going to release you too, because you will not be contaminated, you will not be defiled, but you will bring a dimension of my legacy and my glory and my destiny to that place where I made a promise, and a people that were not my people will become my people. If the dream is big enough, and while Joseph went from the Potiphar's house to the pit to the palace, he was learning all the dynamics of the culture. There's a reason you've had to go through what you've been through. It's because of the dream God gave you. And all the while, there's been a grieving Jacob who thinks Joseph is dead. And then 7 years of plenty come to the nation of Egypt. And Joseph, who's dressed from head to toe as the royal king and prince that he is, second in power only to Pharaoh, but in actual fact, Pharaoh does nothing without consulting with Joseph. Joseph begins to apply the wisdom that he's gleaned from his sufferings, from his afflictions, from his experiences. And he begins to administrate and begins to manage and oversee the building of granaries, the storing of grain, the operation and machination of running a nation in a season of 7-year plenty, because he knows there's 7 years of famine coming. If the dream is big enough. And then comes the famine. And when the famine comes, it's worldwide. Joseph has longed for a hug from his father, but has no way of getting to his father. He becomes so detached because of what he's going through. He has to give up believing he'll ever see his father again. He feels all alone in Egypt. He names his firstborn son Manasseh. God has caused me to forget my affliction. So he's dealing with sorrow, dealing with pain, because there's something in the former generation he loved. He loved. He wanted something for his daddy. And the famine is worldwide. He doesn't fully understand what the dream meant until one afternoon, while he's seated on his throne. 10 men come up the dusty trail outside the walls of Egypt and go through the gates and come into the courts of Joseph to beg for bread. And they bow down at Joseph's feet. And all of a sudden it dawns on Joseph, this dream was never about me. This was about getting them delivered. My dream wasn't for me. It was for them. They despised me. They rejected me. They hated me without a cause. But I've got to learn how to say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Beloved, if the dream is big enough, the facts don't count.